Chapter 1, paragraph 11. V'chol birchat hashachar miramez al zeh. All the birachot of the morning also alludes to all this that we're saying. Shem mishabeach leHashem itbarach she'azaro, that we praise Hashem that He helps us. Limtzo ba'atzmo nekudot tovot, He helps us to find the good points in ourselves. Kedei she'yitorer mishenato unfilato, in order that a person should awaken from his sleep and from his fall. Of course, his spiritual sleep and spiritual fall. This is the idea of hanoten lasechvi bina lavchin ben yom ben laila. It's exactly what we're saying. Like we say, Hashem gives the wisdom to the rooster or the heart, the sechvi, to know the difference between day and night. And of course, that's when He gives His sound and He wakes up the people. Because the good point is the idea of day, and evil, meaning when a person's in a bad place, it's the aspect of night and darkness, like we said in Bereshit. When a person finds his good points, then he's separating the evil from it, because he's leaning only towards the good. So this way he's now separating between the good and the bad. By finding the good point, it's like he's taking himself away from his bad thoughts of himself. So he's separating day and night. So you see how that beracha really sums up everything. And we're going to see the other berachot also. And that's why all these things we're talking about is in the morning. The morning blessings, the morning prayer, getting up from bed and dressing, because that's in the morning. Because it's all about starting the day right. And then it leads you to the rest of the day. That's why all these morning activities all kind of shout out the same idea, which is don't be down and depressed and see all your good points and continue to do good. That's what all our morning activities are basically all about. This is also in the aspect of when we say, thank you Hashem for not making me a goy, a non-Jew. If a person doesn't find in himself the good points, he could fall completely, God forbid, and he would be like a goy, chas v'shalom. Now, there's nothing wrong to be a goy if you are one. That's your level. But for a Jew to be a goy, it means he dropped down, meaning if he acts like one. So that's when you're not finding any good and you're just doing bad and you don't care, and that's being like a goy, chas v'shalom. Now that you woke up spiritually and you strengthened yourself, because Hashem helped you, limtzo ba'atzmo nekudat tova, because Hashem helped you to find a good point in you. So now the guy praises and thanks Hashem for not making him like a goy, not falling into the trap of acting like a goy. Again, when we say a goy in this aspect, we mean even a good goy is a level down from a Jew. But of course, even goyim, if they're good, they do get the next world. They get olam haba. So the goyim can be very good and be righteous. Here we're just talking about it's still a level down from a Jew because Hashem put us on a higher level. And we'll notice we don't have a beracha, thank you Hashem for making me a Yisrael. Why don't we say it like that? Because all Hashem really does is He just by birth He makes you not a goy. But now it's up to you and your free will to make yourself a Yisrael, which means to bring the holiness on yourself and do the right things. And that's really when you're called with merit, Yisrael. Just like Yaakov Avinu, after Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, their merit enabled Yaakov to be called Yisrael. So we have to merit that. So it doesn't come as a freebie. To not be born as a goy comes a freebie. But then to be a Yisrael, you have to do it yourself. Because God forbid, if you're not acting right, like we're learning in this piece, we could be classified as a goy. You know, the Shulchan Aruch says a person who's mechalel Shabbat in public, befarhesia, He's like a goy lechol davar, for everything. God forbid he can't touch the wine, things like that. So there's no freebie and saying a blessing, thank you Hashem for making me a Yisrael. Who says everyone's a Yisrael at the end? So that's the idea. We have to make ourselves a Yisrael by looking at the good points and doing all the good, like this whole chapters are talking about. This is the idea again of Hashem opens the eyes of the blind, which is us, Matir Asurim. He releases us from our boundness, meaning we were tied up, and he unties us. And Zokef Kufufim, he straightens us up from being bent over. Ki metichila be'et shenato, when a person was sleeping, unfilato, and in his downtrodden, depressed state, haya bebchinat iver hamegashesh bafela. He's like a person walking in the darkness, grasping in the darkness. Vaya bebet asurim mamash, and he's like in jail. Vaya kafuf, and he was bent over. Now again, let's see the example in the physical world and in the mental world aspect. In the bed, a person is like a blind because our eyes are closed, and we're tied up because we're tied up in the bed. We don't move. And we're also like hunchbacked because we're lying down in a way we're not up straight. So that's the state of sleep. So Hashem, then we thank him for all these things that he got us up and we're alive. And all these berachot. Now, in the mental attitude of finding the good point, it means like this. When we were sleeping in depression, meaning, so our eyes are closed. We don't see the good points of ourselves. You see, that's why we get depressed. And that means we're also locked up. We're like locked up in our own jail in our mind because we don't see. And then we're hunchbacked, meaning we're not able to stand up straight, and we're feeling depressed and that, and maybe we can't do things because we're bent over. So it's saying, by getting up in the morning, now that we find the good point, because Hashem opened our eyes and now we see the good point, so it spirals the other things. Now it takes you out of your prison, and it takes you up from being hunched back, and you can stand straight, like in your attitude. And with this, now, just by doing this alone, which we said once before, this exercise of finding the good in yourself and attempting to do a little teshuvah is already a merit. It already tips the scale now for you to be on the side of merit, zechut, and not of chovah, where a person is guilty. And then you continue to do teshuvah. Because even to play this game, it means the guy's trying to find a way back to Hashem. He just feels so bad that he thinks he can't do it. But he's much better than the guy that's not even thinking about it at all. So that what gives him a zechut even to think about it. And when he succeeds and he thinks of the good points and then he cheers himself up and he does good, he's really considered like he's doing very good right now. So Hashem gives him favorable merit for that. All the rest of the berachot, we just didn't mention it, but they all are a remez. They have a hint to all these ideas of the good points. And this that we end the blessings with, hanoten layav koach. Of course, some customs is to end with that. Not everybody. We know we end it with Shlo Asani Goy, and then Aved, and then Isha. Maybe you could also say it's like the Goy attitude and not have an Eved attitude, like we're Eved to the Yetzer Hara. And Isha just means, again, we don't want to be a Goy because we have more mitzvot than them. So same thing, we don't want to be an Isha because as a male we have more mitzvot, so we don't want to be less. So we end in that light, which is still the same idea. But here Rabbeinu Zal and Rav Natan is explaining those that end with Hanoten La'ev Koach, who gives the weary strength. It's also wrapping up this whole idea. Shenatan lo koach betoch hayefato hagedula. It gives him strength in his weariness, which is his depression. Sheyuchal adayin letorer mishnato, that he can still wake up from his spiritual sleep. Now Esav, it says he was ayef when he came back, and Yaakov sold him the lentils for the birthright. And Rabbi Avigdor Miller says that ayef doesn't just mean he was tired, it means he was dejected, which means depressed. So ayef means when you're depressed about your life and you think, what did I really do? What am I doing? He thought, because Abraham Avinu died, he said, what's life? Anyway, we're all going to go. Hare ani holech lamut, he said, ve'lamma ze li bechora. What do I need this bechora for, this first right? So he gave it away. Of course, he wanted it later. So that's the idea of ayef. So when you say hanoten la'ef koach, you can think it's also an attitude check that we should, Hashem is helping us and we're blessing him for that. These are blessings. We're thanking Hashem for getting us out of the dark in all these things. So that's what we're supposed to think of. V'zehu hama'avir shena me'enai v'chulei kanal. This is why the last beracha, we say, thank you Hashem for removing the sleep from my eyes. Of course, we say the hamavir chayevle shena, the sickness of the sleep. Me'einenu, from our eyes, utnuma, and again slumber, me'afapenu, from our eyelids. So again, wiping away sleep from our eyes is again saying the idea that he's taking the sleep depression away from us. So we're actually thanking him about the sleep going away. And look how interesting, from our eyes. Sleep is not from our eyes. Our bodies go to sleep. But again, our eyes is how we look at things. So it's taking away the spiritual depressed sleep that's from our eyes because we're not looking at ourselves the right way. So look how the Hashem had the rabbis put in the word eyes, because it's also alluding to the idea that it's more than just physical sleep that's going on here. V'chol ze al yedei ha-chesed. All this is because of the chesed again, that we're able to take ourselves out of depression. V'zeu shechotem ha-gomer chasadim tovim. That's why the next beracha, if you remember, we say gomer chasadim tovim l'amo Yisrael. Hashem does chesed. So again, it's linking the idea of removing sleep and then a beracha of chesed, which is back to Abraham and the right side and all that. So look how our berachot structure is all about these ideas. It's built in to show these ideas. Ki hakol el yidei chesed, it's all about the chesed. Through chesed, b'chinat boker Abraham, because it's the morning, which is like Abraham. Al yidei shematek klape chesed, because again, we tilt the scale to the side of chesed. So you see how it's all coming about from these berachot. So we should have this in mind again every morning.